Hey everyone, so I feel like I'm wonky. Let me try and sort this out. Hey everyone, so today I'm going to be reviewing A Brief History of 7 Killings by Marlon James. I have had this in my collection for quite a while now. I think I picked it up in a charity shop one time and it sounded intriguing. I didn't really know an awful lot, but I think this stood out to me, and I probably at that time subconsciously I knew I wanted to read more like literary fiction and things that come up on a lot of these kind of esteemed book prizes and such. So I have finally gotten to it. It took me literally, I think exactly a month, because I think I started it on the 14th of June and finished it yesterday, which as I'm filming, that today's the 15th, so yesterday was the 14th of July. So literally a full month, and I loved every minute of it. So I think one of the things that put me off picking this up pretty much as soon as I got it was that reading the back I was a little confused, because it is based on a historical event, but I wasn't sure if the rest of the content was going to be factually correct or things like that, and I don't know an awful lot. But basically this is set, it's kind of spanned over a few like decades really, but the bulk of it, the main couple of parts I think, is set in and around 1976 in Jamaica. And it's funny because the easiest way to say is it's about the events of the attempted murder of Bob Marley, but it's really so much more than that, and I'll touch on that a little bit more later. So we are actually following the lives of the people involved with trying to murder him. You get so much detail, and you follow the journey of these characters of Jamaica, some of the uptown and some of the ghetto, and it's just so intense. Like, there's just so many point of views, and I found it really helpful that at the beginning I have tabbed it, so if I remember I'll give you some quotes of, so you can get an idea of the style of writing. But the blue tab at the front, if I can get to it, was just to give me the cast of characters. There's like 3 pages of cast of characters, or 4 pages, and I like that it's split into like, so you follow different gang members, like rival gangs of parts of Jamaica. So you have Copenhagen City, and that's run by a particular Don who's like the leader of it, sort of thing. And then you have the 8 Lanes, which is run by another Don. And then you have like outside Jamaica during these times, Miami, New York during these times. So it really does help set the picture, because otherwise it would have been so overwhelming, like following all these point of views and kind of piecing together how everything links, especially when you do end up going like overseas to a different country and stuff, and you're like, okay, well, how does that connect with this? But yeah, so it's really following the gunmen that stormed Bob Marley's home in 1976, the aftermath of why it wasn't successful, and it's just like there's so many interwoven plots and twists and stories. So yeah, basically, because I was overwhelmed not knowing really what this fit, like was it real, was it not, I've come to the conclusion now that it is based on, you know, real events, but the stories following the lives of these people are embellished, fictionalized, kind of not hypotheses, because it's not like this could have happened, this is that, it's not like a theory, it's just taking that idea and growing on it, exploring on it, thinking what were these lives like, who were these people, that sort of thing. And it was amazing. I guess it was like a character study, but the main plot kind of was like, you know, who would touch the singer, who would do this, and there's just so many things, and it was fantastic. That's probably not the best summary, but wow, it's just, yeah, and it's a chunker, and to say that I loved every minute of it is saying something for sure. So in saying that, I gave this a 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. I thought it was fantastic. Just a warning, there definitely is trigger warnings. There's a lot of violence in here, a lot of sexual assault, and just a lot of brass, gross detail in terms of how, like, the insults that characters give to each other, scenarios like places and, you know, drug addicts and how that's described and stuff. So definitely go in this with a strong stomach. Be warned if there's things that may trigger you. This may not be the book for you, unless you feel like you're in a place where you can read that and detach how you feel. I don't know if you're able to do that, if you're in that state of mind. But other than that, fantastic book. So let's highlight some of the main points that I found whilst reading this. So straight away, the writing style for me I found to be, it's funny because it is a lot of conversation, but even like when someone's not talking, it's more of a narration, but just generally it felt like lyrical, particularly when we are reading from Jamaican characters' perspectives. Like, I couldn't help reading some pieces aloud in my admittedly botched interpretation of the accent that I picked up from my dad and my grandparents. That is probably not the most truest representation from my voice, but it's just, it felt good to speak it out loud and just kind of really feel the words in my mouth, because it is written in a lot of phonetic, I think that's the word, way, particularly for the Jamaican dialect conversation voices, so you really kind of see how it would be spoken, if that makes sense, and I loved that. And again, speaking that myself, it felt nice. You know, it just enhanced the experience, I guess. But I surely didn't do that for the whole book, because we would have been here much longer than a month. It is interesting as well because he has this device of like lack of speech marks, which initially I think you might find to be confusing, but for me specifically I found that it was helpful in the way he did it. It's a bit confusing unless you read it, but basically I found that some characters, they would have like dashes before like conversational speech, and that really helped. I did find when it was American characters, the structure and formatting of their conversations, like from one of their point of views, felt different and was a little bit more tricky for me to grasp when conversations were actually being had. But generally I just have to like skim over it a few times to fully grasp who's talking, you know, because it isn't like stated obviously unless you're in context, you know, with who's present sort of thing. But I did think that was interesting. It did take me a little while to kind of get into that, but I enjoyed it. It didn't like hinder my experience or anything like that. And yeah, so back to the Bob Marley thing. So obviously that's kind of like the main plug of it, but it's just so much more. It's funny really that all the characters call him the singer, and I wondered why that was. I thought perhaps it kind of enhanced that detachment that the people of Jamaica had to him. A lot of people, especially when you're reading from like the gangs involved, perhaps with his attempted murder, a lot of people had this grudge against him, this animosity and resentment. So I feel like calling him the singer kind of distanced themselves and their like island away from him and his fame and kind of the portrayal that he was giving of Jamaica. But yeah, it was very, he was still seemed to be like very admired and like untouchable. And so when news came about that he had been shot, people were like shocked at how, almost like the audacity that people would attempt to murder him, because it was like almost like he was up there and you couldn't do that, you know, even if you hated him. It came as a shock to a lot of people. So it is interesting. I think the term of calling him the singer just brought up so many different interpretations of why they called him the singer, just in my mind. I don't know if there was actually a specific reason, which I thought added something, definitely. And I felt it funny because although that's kind of like the driving force, obviously it's the event that sparks basically the story, it's really not about Bob Marley at all. It's more about the people swirling around him, any interactions and even non-interactions, just people that know someone that knows him that knows somebody. Do you know what I mean? That sort of thing. And there was a perfect quote actually that I read and I want to share with you guys that kind of sums up those feelings I had pretty accurately. It says here, I am slowly realising that even though the singer is the centre of the story, it really isn't his story. Like there's a version of the story that's not really about him, but about the people around him, the ones who come and go, that might actually provide a bigger picture. So that in itself is like perfect in capturing more of the essence of what this book's about, I would say. And yeah, it was phenomenal. So I do have a lot more that I speak about in my Goodreads review. My Goodreads profile is always linked below if you're interested. But I just want to finish this off by saying this as an audiobook I think would sound amazing, especially when it comes to like the phonetic speaking of some of the characters. I just feel like if it had a full cast, it would feel like a movie. And that in itself, if this was to become a movie or TV adaptation, I feel like so much could be done with this. I feel like it would be really awesome. And just seeing it and like visualizing it in your mind is always a cool experience, but sometimes seeing a really accurately well done media interpretation just hits the nail on the head. And I feel like something amazing could come if this was like on the TV screen and you could actually see what you were feeling when reading this book if done well. So just like when I was doing a review for The Black Kids by Christina Hammonds Reid, I forgot to include the quotes until after I finished recording. So here I am from the future, yet also still from the past from when you're seeing this. Wow, time travel, amazing things. I'm coming to read some quotes, so I don't think I'm going to do too many. Some of them are just like funny, and it's like you have to kind of read the context for it to be more funny, if you know what I mean. But this one here is about, there's a character in here called Nina, and it's about her and a relationship with her sister Kimmy. Basically, she doesn't get on with her sister. Her sister has become, I believe, a Rastafarian. She's very preachy in the way that she talks to Nina, as if like she's better than her in a way. And basically there's a conversation where they're sort of having a conversation, and Nina internally, she's having this battle of all these nasty things she wants to say to her. And one of these things, there's a lot of explicities in this, so it says, "And why don't you go fuck yourself, miss? I couldn't fuck and breed for Chihuahua, so I go and take whatever revolution I can ride in my vagina. It reaches the very tip of my tongue and vanishes like a sugar pill. I tell myself that I tolerate Kimmy because she could never survive me even once talking to her the way she talks to me. I hate people like that. People you have to protect while they keep hurting you. Deep down, she's still the same girl who wants more than anything for people to like her. The only thing she wants more than that is to go back and be born poor and struggling so she can feel entitled to hate everybody who lives in Norbrook. But one day, she's going to push me either too far or not far enough. I keep telling myself I don't have time for her, but I went with her to one of those 12 tribes Rasta gatherings. Can't remember when. Might be the same week we went to the party at the singer's house." Basically, it then goes on to say the whole time in the car ride to the party, she was talking loud about how she does this, how she does that, how she's like a transformed person. But as soon as they get there, she's like stone quiet. You know, it's very clear that the women are submissive, and it's I guess the irony that Nina is seeing, and she's like, you're preaching all this stuff and you're acting like you're the bee's knees, but you're not talking at all, you're not giving as much of a voice as you're saying you have. And it's a very interesting section. And again, I want to just quickly mention that, as I just spoke about the Black Kids briefly, previously, I found, because I was sort of reading them alongside each other, I found very interesting similarities between the two sisters in the Black Kids and the two sisters here, about one really wanting to kind of push away her privilege of being raised in a rich family in a rich area, and trying to like almost push herself into the poorer areas and trying to become that, even though she wasn't born into it, and almost going too far in the sense that she's hurting herself, hurting others in a way. Where the other sister's like kind of almost embracing like the complete opposite. She's embracing the money that she's been born into, and it was interesting to just see those little similarities whilst reading two different books. It was just cool. Let's see if I have one more. I don't have a lot of tabs in here, and some of these again they're just kind of in context. Oh, that one here was the bit that I told you about, how Bob Marley's not really the centre of the story. Oh, this one's good because it's quite true actually. When a father turn away from his son, he can't act shocked when the son don't know him no more. Not that Josie is my son. He would shoot me if me even call him boy. But it's my fault. Me turn away from him because me carrying things that I used to think he can't carry. That some people do nothing but dream, and some people do nothing but act, and that both good and bad. People like Josie have no vision. People like me have no drive. I've been thinking, and I've been talking, and I've been showing people new reasoning that it's just about we and only we. No politician and no government. A different kind of system, better than the shitstem. Where gun too heavy to carry so nobody carry any. And where my woman and him woman and everybody woman don't work no more just to get they boss richer. You wake up wanting new because old is so old that it don't even stink anymore. It's just blowing away like dry rot. And basically that was when, just briefly, there was basically rumblings between people within the same kind of gang posse. and things suspicious happening that wasn't lining up properly as they should. So there was a little bit of like something's rumbling, plot's about to turn sort of situation. Again, kind of makes more sense in the context, and I don't want to give you too much context because then that kind of spoils the story. But back to the outro. So there's that. I thought this was fantastic. I know my video's been a bit rambly trying to get my thoughts across, but it's one of those books that leave you like you have so much to say, but it's almost like you can't categorize and order it into a cohesive way of speech, if you know what I mean. But just if you get nothing else out of this video, just please check this out. At least give the first couple of chapters a try, see if you enjoy it, because it is an awesome book. I really did enjoy it. Anyway, that is me for today. I will speak to you in another video soon. Bye. Every time we say goodbye.